is to help tackle the cost of living crisis and give support to those who need it the most. In a nutshell, the appeal offers a simple plea to donate the rebates. If you're due an energy bill rebate but you don't actually need it, the invite is there to consider donating it to help others. Talitha Nelson is the Chief Executive of the Gloucestershire Community Foundation and joins me this afternoon. Good afternoon to you, Talitha.
Good afternoon, Dom. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you for being on. From what you've seen and heard, how much is being done in Gloucestershire to, come together to tackle the cost of living crisis?
At the moment, I'm not sure how many of us are truly feeling what's happening on the ground. But having this week spoken to a number of charities, it's really quite alarming, and it's affected my team and everybody working with us, because actually we have a couple of issues going on that are probably worse than the pandemic, and I think it's really important we talk about them. We don't want to alarm people, we don't want to depress people, but I think what we're trying to do is share the picture on the ground for many people at the moment already facing a crisis before we've even hit winter, and trying to come up with some of those solutions. What are some of the things we can be doing that makes us feel really positive about making a difference, no matter how large or small?
Yeah. What examples then have you seen or heard that cause you the most concern and you're happy to share with us, Talitha?
Well, the stats coming through, I guess the ones that are popping out to me that started to make me feel pretty panicked when I started reading through them. You need to be earning £45,000 as a family to pay your bills. Now, that's going to include an awful lot of people that don't earn over £45,000. So this is about two working parents that are going to struggle to either put food on the table or pay their heating bills. This isn't a crisis we've seen before. I think that the issues we've got are in the pandemic. There was some generous funding coming through from various sources, and we were able to do an awful lot very quickly. And everyone was pulling together, whether it's statutory, local, personal, people, businesses. Now, the other stats that go alongside the need that is starting to go up is things like food banks locally are seeing a 55% rise in the last 2 months. But the issue we have is donations are going down. So 4% of donations are coming through this year versus 30% in 2019. So what we're seeing is alarming rates of need going higher and higher at the moment. The early signs are it's worse than the pandemic, and the funding and the donations aren't coming through. So we are starting to feel some real pressure then around the charities who will be the ones that pick up the pieces. Charities are often the only places people can turn, and if they're not getting the donations, if they're not getting the help, they're going to really, really struggle.
Yeah, I mentioned in the introduction, of course, the Community Foundation that you run has launched this bid to raise £100,000 to help tackle the cost of living crisis. In a nutshell, can you just tell us a bit more about Donate the Rebate?
Yeah, so the government are looking at giving this £400, and it's not means tested. So essentially, it's a bit like the Surviving Winter campaign, where around a £250 rebate goes to older people. And a lot of people say to us, we don't need that £250. And we've been using that in Surviving Winter to give to older people to help them with their fuel bills. Now, this is obviously a much wider donation. This is £400 going out to people, not means tested. So what we're saying is, if you don't need that government help, please pass it on. What I'd like to do is a 30-second story about Mel and her family, a real person, a real example, just how small an amount of money can go a long way. So this isn't about saying we need to raise billions because we're not going to be able to stop the crisis. This is about small amounts, as much as we can and where we can, and the impact it has. So Mel, a local Gloucestershire lady, was struggling to cover the cost of food and couldn't pay her bills. She was having to choose between eating and heating, and the stress was causing her mental health to suffer. Thanks to a grant from GCF, the food bank provided Mel with 10 items of food each week for £3.50. She could also get fresh food items like vegetables, chilled foods, breads and eggs. By accessing this service, which is funded by our generous donations and generous donors, Mel saved £15 a week, which enabled her to pay her bills. So some of these individual stories isn't about huge amounts of money, but it is trying to spread where money's coming through, like a government donation to people, and is that getting to the right place? Is it getting to the people that need it? And that £400 could have a huge impact on many people's lives.
Yeah, no, absolutely. As you know, as I know, as everybody knows, every time we go to the supermarket, the price of the basics, as we're hearing this week, bread and milk and eggs have just gone up so much now. And I know that, some of the supermarkets are, stopping people buying more than maybe 3 items in their kind of essential range. Otherwise, they just literally run out. I mean, it has become incredibly serious situation. And as you say, you're going to be offering these kind of little mini grants, I suppose, aren't they?
We're going to support, so we support the whole county, and we work. So in the last 2 years, we've funded about 2 million, over 2 million, to about 350, 400 charities. We know the sector very well. And what we want to do is be able to spread the funding across a lot of charities people have never heard of. A lot of charities will really struggle to raise money. A lot of the small community groups won't have that visibility. What we want to do is make sure that we inspire people to give a picture of the county and what some of our charities are going through, encourage the funding to come through to this central pot, and we will distribute it fairly amongst all of the charities that need this support. So one example, the CAB, the Citizens Advice Bureau, so another piece around not just food but debt crisis. They are now getting 2 calls a minute. So it's not just about funding, but they're actually desperate for volunteers. And so we've got 2 citizens advice bureaus in the county who do incredible work, and some of it is a lack of information. There are a lot of benefits out there that people don't even know are there and aren't claiming. So millions and millions of pounds goes unclaimed. Now, the CAB simply they're looking for about 80 volunteers in various different areas. But the generalist and triage assessors essentially are trained. And if people have a bit of time, they are desperate for volunteers because they're already seeing a 20% increase this year. So we've got the North West and Glos CAB, which covers the Forest, Gloucester, Tewkesbury, Cheltenham, and then the Stroud and Cotswold CAB. This is a vital service that people probably don't either know is there, or probably don't even know how much work they do with people in poverty. So it's not just about some basic human needs like food, heating and eating. That is 2 really important things, but debt crisis is always going to be a thing at the moment that we need to support.
Okay, I think you did mention it, but I think we should just ask you that again. How can someone donate if they wish, if they're listening now and they want to donate the rebate, which I think you were saying is £400, isn't it?
It is, but we've put something together around how much money helps people. So £10 could feed a child for 5 days. So a small amount could help. But when you're looking at something like the rebate of £400, that could provide winter care packages for 15 people in financial crisis. So every small amount will make a huge difference. So we don't want people to feel pressured into giving anything that they can't afford to do, because small amounts are vital. So if they could go through to the Gloucestershire Community Foundation website, we have the donate page, and you'll be able to donate through our webpage, and we will keep everyone up to date with how we get on. We've just had our first major donor donate £7,000 to get this appeal moving forward, and so they very generously gave us that money, and so we're on our way. But everything helps, from £10 to as much as people can give.
From £10 to £7,000 or more. That is, it's really, it's good to end on a positive. Thank you so much, Talitha Nelson, their Chief Executive of the Gloucestershire Community Foundation. They've launched that bid to raise £100,000 to help tackle cost of living crisis and give support to those who need it the most, as you said. All the details, Gloucestershire CF, the CF standing for Community Foundation, gloucestershirecf.org.uk, and as I say, it'll take you to that link there where you can donate. It's 18 minutes past 12, BBC Radio